Hello everyone, Lapis here, and welcome to all the basics you need to know about in Zenless Zone Zero, along with some of my own thoughts on stuff. And yeah, I know I'm like 4 or 5 weeks late on this video, but better late than never. Originally, I was gonna do a first time playing Zenless video up until the first big boss of the game, but turns out condensing 7 hours of story is kinda hard. And then I was gonna talk about all my thoughts on some stuff, and then that just turned into talking about everything. So here we are explaining the basics as well. If I do miss talking about anything, please let me know in the description. And with that being said, let's get into it. Let's start things off by building our squad. In ZZZ, you get a team of 3 characters and 1 Bangboo that can fight alongside you and offer support for your team. They can also gain an additional effect based on your team comp. For example, the Shark Boo's chain attack inflicts 100% more anomaly buildup if you have at least 2 ice characters. Or the Explore Boo, where if there's 1 support character in your squad, its active skills buff effects are increased. Back to the team though. You typically want to build your team around the enemy's weaknesses, especially later on when enemies start to have shields, which break faster based on their weakness, or just your favorite characters. Each character also has an additional passive which can only be activated if there's another member of the squad that's of the same element or faction, so you really do want to build your team around that. For example, Ambi, Rita and Corin, which is what I went with for a majority of the story, with Ambi and Rita being both electric and Corin and Rita being of the same faction. This can also be a bit of a pain though if you don't have a lot of characters. Take one of my favorite characters, Sokaku for example. I can't actually activate her additional passive as both other ice characters are S rank, so I would have to be pretty lucky to get them. Plus, there's no other characters that are in Sokaku's faction at the moment, which kinda sucks. I do know that Miyabi was in the closed beta, but unfortunately she did not make it to the base game. So for now, I just can't activate her passive. But at least I got lucky with the other characters and I can run a full electric team of Ambi, Rhea and Grace, so at least there's that. Each character also comes with a specific role. For example, stun characters like Ambi and Kaleda excel at building up daze to stun enemies. Attack characters like Billy and Corin focus on dealing a high amount of damage. Support characters like Rita and Sokaku can provide buffs for the squad and can enable a quick assist when hitting enemies with their skills and ultimate. Anomaly characters like Grace and Piper excel at accumulating anomaly buildup to enemies, which we'll get into a bit later. And finally, defense characters like Ben Bigger, which have strong survivability and are good at counterattacking. All in all, the team building aspect isn't that difficult to figure out in Zenless, and you don't have to worry about it too much. All I would really say is have at least 1 character of each element built, and not to really have the same roles on your team. With that being said, I think it's pretty good, and all I really wish for is another ice or special operations character for my Sokaku. But now that we've built our team, let's get into the combat of Zenless. Now with ZZZ being a gacha game and something for you to play daily, the combat isn't the most complex thing in the world to grasp. There's no, say, Devil May Cry or Bayonetta level of combos. But with that being said, let's get into it with our squad here to teach us the basics. Every character has a basic attack combo with an average of 3 to 4 attacks which can be interrupted at any time by dodging, using a skill, switching characters, and more. Some characters have special actions during their combos, like Ambi, who can heavy attack after a 3rd move, or Rita, who can heavy attack to call back her little helpers by her side.
I'm here.
Characters like Grace can also move around with a movement input after attacking or using their skill. When attacking an enemy, you will also gain up to 5 different things. The first being energy, which you can see with the squad's health bars. Once you have enough energy, it will become an EX special attack, which is a more powerful version. While doing an EX special attack, a character will also become invulnerable or get more anti-interruption like Sokaku. A support character like Rita, when using EX skill, can also activate a quick assist. The second thing you can gain from attacking an enemy is a character's passive, which you can see right beneath the active character's health bar. For example, Grace here builds Zap, and when she uses her skill at max, she increases the accumulated electric anomaly buildup on a target. The third thing you gain from fighting enemies is decibels for the decibel meter, which you can see on the upper left side of the screen. Decibels will go towards your ultimate charge, maxing at 3000, which is shared between the whole squad, meaning only one character can use a ultimate at a time until you next max your decibel rating. You can also increase the decibel rating faster by doing skills, anomaly buildup, quick assists, and other actions. The fourth thing is the daze meter that's on the enemy, which we can fill by attacking them. When maxed, they become stunned, and during this time the enemy will take more damage, and if you hit them with a heavy attack, like a ultimate, skill, or the end of an attack chain, you can initiate a chain attack. And depending on the enemy type, you can also perform a different amount of consecutive chain attacks. On boss enemies, you can perform up to 3 consecutive chain attacks, including a combat bang boot if you have one on the squad, before the final team member. The fifth thing that we gain is also on the enemy, which is anomaly buildup, that you can see on the right side of the enemy's health bar. This will increase when hit with an elemental attribute by a character. When anomaly buildup is maxed, it will do a certain amount of damage and a certain effect based on which element caused it, and all enemies that get inflicted by the element they're weak to can also get their actions interrupted. Electric triggers shock, which makes it so when you attack it triggers electric damage. Physical triggers 2 effects, assault and flinch. Assault interrupts the enemy and deals massive damage, while flinch increases the daze that the enemy receives for a short period of time. Ice can also trigger 2 effects, being freeze and frostbite. Freeze, well, freezes the enemy and triggers shatter at the end of the effect, dealing ice damage. And frostbite increases critical damage taken by the enemy for a set time. Fire triggers burn, which deals continuous damage for a period of time. And finally, ether triggers corruption, which deals additional ether damage when attacked. And finally, let's talk about reacting to the enemy. When an enemy attacks, you can dash and perform a dodge counter, which differs depending on the character. Some enemy attacks will also glow gold, and during this time you can either perform a dodge or switch characters and activate a defensive or evasive assist. Defensive assist will parry the enemy's attacks and apply massive daze, while evasive assist will dodge the enemy's attacks and activate vital view, which makes all enemies become slow for a set time. You can also attack after either assist to initiate a follow-up attack. And honestly, that's about it for the combat. Yeah, it's not the most complex system ever, but as I said earlier, with it being a gacha and something for you to play daily, that's honestly fine for what it is. It's really fun, I enjoy it quite a bit, the combat feels good, and reacts well. There's not really too much to complain about. Do I wish it was a bit more complex? Sure, but for what it is, it's really good. And I should probably say, outside of the end game stuff like Follow Zero and Shield Defense, the game is really easy. Now on to W engines, which are the weapons for your characters that can give you 3 things, which are base attack, an advanced stat, and most importantly, the passive, which is what matters the most, as that's what's going to give you the most impact for your characters. Every character, as rank or not, also has their own W engine, which is specifically made for them, like Corin's here, which focuses entirely on her skill. These W engines can also activate an exclusive skin effect in battle, with some being more obvious than others. For example, I can't even tell what changes are in Ambu, and a character like Anton, where the red in his hair will glow a grey orange, but because it's on the front of his head, you can hardly see it, with you mainly seeing the character's back most of the time. While we have characters with really obvious skins, like Corin, whose hair becomes a bright green, or the end of Rita's hair that glows blue. And as you've probably noticed by now, each engine also has a really neat animation when equipped, with Sokaku having one of the best ones I've seen so far. You can also buy the base A rank and all B rank W engines from the gadget store, while also being able to dismantle all the engines you don't want into W engine level up materials. Surrounding the W engines, we have the drive discs that act as our artifacts in Zenless, which can offer different stats and set effects for your characters. With having 6 slots, we can get a 4-piece set bonus and a 2-piece set bonus. Each slot also provides different base stats, with the left side having HP, attack, and defense, and the right side providing random base stats for each of the slots, which you can actually view at the music store when picking a slot or tuning. If you are having trouble figuring out what stat to put on your character, you can actually look at the base stats and see what stat they specialize in, which will be highlighted in orange, as well as their role in the team and element. So for example, a character like Grace, who focuses on anomaly build-up, works amazing with Freedom Blues, which is all about anomaly proficiency, and Swing Jazz, which gives energy regen. I will give one piece of advice and say that there isn't really any point in farming drive discs before level 35, as that's the point you get access to S-rank discs, which is what you really want as they can be leveled up further and give higher stats. If you really do need discs before then though, either farm them or create them in the music store, but only to a point you can get the set bonus. But otherwise, focus on your guaranteed stat boosts first, like your W engines, skills, and level. Oh, and one last thing, every 3 levels on a disc will add a random stat if you don't have the maximum of 4, and if you do, it will upgrade one of the stats at random. Now, of course we have to talk about the Gacha system, where you'll get your characters, engines, and bang boos. We'll start by taking a look at the banners. First, which we have 4 of. 1 for the limited character and 2 selected A ranks with a higher rate up. 1 for the limited W engine and selected A ranks. The base banner that will never change, which when you first start will give you the first 50 pulls at a discount and provide a guaranteed S rank agent for you on the 50th pull. While once you reach 300 pulls, you can select the base S rank agent of your choice to grab. And last but not least is the Bangbu banner, where you can select the Bangbu you wish to have with a guarantee of getting it. You also really do want to choose which Bangbu you want, as once you get to around level 32, I'd say, as getting Boopons comes to a grinding halt, just so you're aware. The banners in ZZZ also work the same way as Hoyoverse's other games, with being guaranteed an S rank in 90 pulls with a 50-50 chance of getting the limited character, or a base one. Unlucky for me, I did not win the 50-50. Please be Ellen.
I should be able to help.
Fuck! But at least I have a full electric team now, so that's a plus. You're also guaranteed an A rank every 10 pulls from the last A rank you got. The search count also carries across banners, so if you did lose on the limited banner, the next character will be guaranteed to be the limited. So you could wait for a future character or continue pulling, as you know the next S rank will be who you want. Unfortunately for me, I'm 140 pulls in on the Ellen banner, and I don't think I'll get her, so I'll probably end up saving for Miyabi or another ice character. When pulling a copy of anything, for example a character, you can go to the stats of said character and click on the cinema in the bottom left and activate one of the buffs in order to upgrade your character's skills and passives, which will also slowly reveal some artwork. This also works for W engines and Bangboos. For W engines, you just have to go to the enhancement screen and click on the arrows next to the stars, and for Bangboos, you will have to go to the remodeling shop on 6th Street. When pulling anything, you will also gain residual and fading signals from every banner except the Bangbu banner, which will give you Bang Bucks. You can use all of these in the signal shop that's located in the store. Residual signals can be used to get pulls, a choice of 2 characters that change every month, or most importantly, what you're gonna really want to save for, being the base S-rank W engines, which you'll most likely want for the base S-rank agent you pulled, or your favourite characters if it's good on them. Luckily for me, I managed to pull Rena's weapon, so I might go for Grace's fusion compiler next. Fading signals can be used to buy materials, but most importantly, the 5 free limited and base banner pulls that reset every month, so really just save for those. And lastly, Bang Bucks, which you can use to buy more Boopons, including 5 a month for a discounted price, other Bangboos that also rotate once a month, some Bangboo level materials, and the Master modified part, which lets you modify any Bangboo once. Also, the Master tape exchange here just lets you turn your polychrome into pulls. The TV segments in Zenless serve as our exploration missions, with us controlling Eos, our little Bangboo, going across screens, interacting with stuff, and getting to our destination. It's a really cool and creative system with what they do sometimes, like a moving train, moving stuff around, big enemies taking up more screens. The whole style is just really cool, especially when you're just starting out. But honestly, after the first few days, or just constantly doing it, I personally started to find the TV segments just a bit tedious at times. I think it did used to be worse in the betas though, so I'll gladly deal with what we have. But for what it is, I do like it. Though, I think it maybe could be a bit better, especially when it comes to the dialogue stopping progression. At least in the side quests, since I don't have a problem with all the main story exposition. And with how slow actions can be at times. Maybe they could do a ×2 speed option? I don't know. Oh, and if you go AFK in TV segments for a certain period of time, Barry will chime in with some humorous dialogue.
Ding dong. A delivery has arrived at your door. No answer. Not even a delivery can wake you up.
The hubs of Zenless are the areas we can go around outside of our missions, with only 4 of them actually being useful. First up, we have our video store, Random Play, that we can open up once a day to get rewards, being mainly Denny's, but based on who you have managing the store, you can actually get some different rewards. While in the back room is where we can access all our missions, the archive, the workbench to view tutorials and other information, and the VR training. We also have our rooms upstairs, where we can edit the memory board, view music in the jukebox, and sleep at the end of the day. Right outside the store is 6th Street, where we can access a whole bunch of stuff, like the remodeling shop to upgrade our bangbos, the music store where we can craft and dismantle drive discs, House newsstand where you can do a scratch card daily, and view updates on the story through the news, and read more on page 2 that changes daily. Officer Mew Mew, where you'll get rewards for doing side stuff around the hubs. The arcade, to play some mini games, solo or against other players. The convenience store, where we can buy a bunch of stuff that refreshes weekly. The coffee shop, where we can refresh 60 charge and boost the drop rate chance of something, depending on the coffee chosen, that changes every day. The gadget store, where we can buy and recycle W engines. And the last and best place, the noodle shop, where General Chop shows off the most magnificent cooking skills to serve us the best noodles that provide the selected buffs for free fights. All that's really missing from 6th Street is 3 things. One being with the noodle stand and having no follow-up cutscene of Weiselbell eating the noodles. There's actually one scene in the game that does exactly that, which I kinda wish they just reused. Second, being Officer Mew Mew and wishing that it acted like a bingo, where once you complete a line, we get some extra rewards. And finally, not being able to customize the inside and outside of a video store to attract more customers. Like, come on, I think that would be amazing. All in all, I really do like 6th Street and the video store. They're just such nice little areas. But there is one thing I really don't like about 6th Street, and it's that the inside of our store counts as a separate area. Like, the store is really small. Why isn't it just connected to 6th Street? I think it's just really weird that they didn't just connect it, like, properly. Instead, we got a little loading screen, but oh well, that's just a personal gripe. We have 2 other areas that we can go to a lot, with the first being the HIA, where we do all our farming for our characters, W engines and Bangbos. While we have Scott Outpost, where we can fight the weekly bosses that don't use energy, which is just fantastic, with all the stuff we have to farm, the drive discs, and our endgame content being Hollow Zero, where we pick a boss and difficulty to work towards through various stages, while interacting with stuff and gaining various buffs. We also have Shiyu Defense, where we have to work through stages that get harder the further you go, where you will eventually have to have 2 teams. Now, as you can see, I haven't finished it yet, but once you do, I assume it's going to unlock some more stages, which you'll have a limited time to complete, that gives rewards and switches out every so often. I imagine that Hollow Zero might also have something similar as well. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Hollow Zero also has weekly challenges that can give you wishes, boopons, and once you complete a run, can also give you Z merits, while Shiyu Defense and the weekly bosses give you investigation merits, which you can exchange with Casper, the guy standing just outside of the tent for various rewards. There are also more hub areas in ZZZ, like Bellabug Industries and Lumina Square, but they are nowhere near as important, as outside of the side quests, there's really no reason to be in these areas, which kinda sucks. Especially an area like Lumina Square that just feels unfinished. Like, it feels like I should be able to do way more here, but it just isn't. And I don't know, maybe like other areas like Bellabug Industries could have, I don't know, a mini game with moving boxes or something. Like, any reason to actually go to these areas. Now, I also want to take a moment to talk about the characters of Zenless, as they are the ones to bring this game to life, driving the story forward with their stories and personalities. So, let's start with our two main characters. Wise and Belle being two siblings that own a movie record store while also being proxies, people that guide others in the hollows while also being the only ones that can connect directly to their Bangboo, known as Eos. That we know of anyway. And Wise and Belle are two really fun characters that actually talk quite a lot, which is really nice to see coming from Genshin. The chemistry that they share and how they interact with each other and everyone else is just really great to see. I absolutely love these two, and the only bad thing about them is Belle's running animation. Like, what the hell is this? Put your damn arms by your side, you're gonna slap a kid in the face running like that. The other big character that we get introduced to early in the story is the AI that we get stuck with after helping the Cunning Hares, is Fairy, who is just a really damn smart AI that can essentially gather all known data on the Hollows, as she can hack into pretty much every device with no problem and just compile all the data, which does use a lot of power, driving up our energy bill. Also, can I just say that thank God Fairy has such an enjoyable personality, not to mention a really sassy one at that. Like, it has been so entertaining so far, and all I'm really saying is, if Fairy was just your really boring, average AI, I wouldn't like them in the slightest. And of course we can't forget about all the other characters we get introduced to in the game either, like the Cunning Hares, who are such a charming, broke-ass crew that we spend a lot of time with, the crew of Bellabug Industries, Victoria Housekeeping. All the characters and factions have just been great so far. Apart from Perlman, the short chubby guy, and Inspector Bringer, who seems to only want the meteor on him, those two can be thrown into a meat grinder for all I care. Aside from them though, everyone has been amazing, and the story has made me like a lot of the characters that I didn't really care for before, like Anton, Von Lycan, and Nekomata, which I didn't really like at the start, but after actually interacting with them in the story, they really grew on me. There's also the NPCs that look really nice, especially the important ones like General Chop, Elfie, Tin Master, and just all the rest who have amazing designs for not even being playable and just there in the world. After reaching 32 and doing Envy's little quest, you'll also be able to hang out with the characters you own and level their friendship. You can find them around the different areas in the game and ask them to hang out after doing the prerequisite stuff, of course, like meeting them in the story, doing their agent story, if they have one, and most importantly, actually owning the character. So some characters like Sokaku, Lucy, and Piper, as you haven't actually met them yet, you can't hang out with them. And when leveling up friendship, which takes around a week or less, you'll get special events at each interval to rank up to the next level, where you can learn more about the character or just do something special with them. You'll also gain rewards at each interval. With the first level, you'll just gain some simple rewards, and at stage 2, you'll gain a Resonium for a character that you have a chance of getting in Hollow Zero when they're on your team. Too bad I haven't actually run into one yet. And at the final stage of friendship, you'll gain an agent wallpaper for your menu screen, which is great. At the moment, I've only unlocked 4, being Ambi, Billy, Grace, and Corin. I do wish that we also got a photo of the character to put on the memory board as well, but oh well, it is what it is. Maybe we'll get something like that in the future though, hopefully. There's also 2 more things that I want to mention, with the first being the animation, which has to be one of my absolute favourite parts of the whole game, with each animated cutscene feeling so full of life and the animation just being so fluid and bouncy. I also just adore how it shows off each character's personality really well. Like, I always enjoy whenever Billy is on the screen, as a lot of his movements are just so great. And one of the earlier cutscenes where you first meet Corin is just absolute cinema. Of course, you also have your really cool cutscenes as well, where they go all out, like at the end of Chapter 1 after you beat the first big boss, or when you go into Hollow Zero for the first time and see Miyabi try and take down this giant Ethereal. Aside from the animated cutscenes though, the animation everywhere else is just as great. whether it's just a character talking in the story with subtle movements, or in combat where you're constantly moving around, especially when you first get into combat in the stage and each character does their own little intro animation, which is really cool. Too bad it only happens the first time in a stage though. Some of my favorite animations though would have to be when you're inspecting your character's stats and weapons as they move around when switching between each section. Plus you can make them dance if you switch between them rapidly, which is fun. Some characters like Sokaku also have a different animation if you go between the segments in a different order. So if you go to skills from base stats, you get a downward view, but if you go from equipment to skills, she puts on her mask. Like, that is just so cool and really neat. And while talking about the animation, I should probably mention the UI and all the art in the game, as it's just so clean and good looking. Just take a look at the video archives, for example. Each chapter and agent story features beautiful art, as well as all the videos in the video store, which all have their own description and art. The whole internet layout is just amazing, and how it updates to progress throughout the game. The workbench UI and the holo codex where the enemies have card-like designs, which I think is great. And the partner archive, where you can view the people you met along the way and what the siblings think of them. And how could I forget about the comic book-like cutscenes in the story, which are just spectacular. Just all the UI and art throughout the game is so damn clean. I absolutely love all of it. Oh my god, I can't believe I almost forgot to include this, but some of my favorite art in the game is also for each character's cinema, which, when you get multiple copies, you can upgrade your character and unlock the full art for them, which you can also change how the art looks once you've unlocked all the segments. For example, I have Sokaku here, who I have maxed, so I can view her full artwork and change it around, which is great. The only real problem I have with the UI is with the noodle shot, and not knowing if I have the buff from the noodles outside of going into battle or at the shop. Like, I just wish there was a little symbol somewhere on the screen when I'm running around, like next to the time of day or just somewhere on the screen. That's about it for the basics and my thoughts on Zenless. I've just been really enjoying the game so far. There isn't really too much to complain about in my opinion, besides some things that can be fixed in the future, like the noodle shop buff UI. The combat is fun, the characters and story are great so far, and all the art in the game is beautiful. I love all of it. Besides the grinding you have in every gacha game, of course. But I can say that I will definitely continue to play Zenless, as it is a legitimately fun and charming game, in my opinion anyway. But with all that's been said, this has to be the end of the video. If you guys have watched this far, thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, hit that like button. Bye bye everyone.